This is Vanessa Harris, founder of Fun for the Disabled and Strategy for Access. I am here with Morgan Van Dyne. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
How are you?
Good. Morgan is a performer and comedian with a very severe disability. Morgan, you have a very severe autoimmune condition called relapsing polychondritis.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
So relapsing polychondritis is an autoimmune disease where your body thinks that your cartilage and your collagens are foreign material and your body tries to reject it. So it's super painful and it's degenerative because it does destroy the cartilage in your body. So it just causes like a lot of joint pain. It affects a lot of major organs like your heart and your lungs. And it's generally just a pain.
Okay. Since it has to do with your cartilage, does it make you more prone to bone breaks?
So it doesn't actually make you more likely to get bone breaks, although a lot of the medications you take can make you, like steroids, can make you more likely. But there is some theory that maybe bone breaks cause the onset of relapsing polychondritis. So, yeah, they're connected in some ways. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So to recap, your body is trying to reject the collagen and the cartilage in all the organs in your body?
Yes.
Like your trachea and your aorta?
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
Okay. This autoimmune disease, it's often fatal?
Yeah, so for a lot of people it can be fatal because it attacks your aorta for one. So a lot of people die of heart failure, or like it attacks the trachea, so you have like a tracheal collapse and you can't breathe without a trachea. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Pretty dangerous.
That is dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned that if you had known about the genetics of it, that would have stalled you from doing some of the sports that you did at a younger age.
Yeah, so there's some research that's been done that shows that maybe if you don't ever have a bone break through cartilage, even if you have this genetic mutation, you won't develop the actual disease. I do think being active and being in sports was such an integral part of my childhood that I'm not sure I would have skipped it entirely, but I think, it might have been something nice to know, and hopefully in the future, people will be able to screen for it and look out for it so that they don't develop the disease.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you feel this would have changed the course of who you are?
Yeah. I mean, I think that people, life plays out the way that it's supposed to, mm-hmm. And, you get what you can handle and things like that, and it definitely has been a really humbling experience, and it's been something that I've learned a lot from, and I think there are weirdly a lot of positives that have come from being sick.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you feel we're supposed to live our life to the fullest potential that we are and handle what comes along the way?
Of course, yeah. I think that's another way of looking at it too. Is would I have not raced dirt bikes as a kid or done karate if I had known I had this disease? It's kind of you don't want to allow things like that to hold you back, right? You have to live anyway, and I think that continues into life as a chronically ill person. You have to find that balance of pushing through the pain so that you can still enjoy life and do the things that you want to do, and finding ways to cope that work for you, and then also being gentle with yourself and allowing yourself time to rest and recover, because that's super important too.
It is important.
Yeah.
It is important. How does your condition inspire you to keep going and do what you do?
Yeah, I think it's been genuinely been a huge inspiration to me. It's just kind of like a little kick in the butt to like really get, once you realize, like, I think everyone kind of takes their time for granted, you know? You think like, oh, you know, I have this goal and maybe I'll achieve it in like 5 years, or you put it off to like work on something else, things like that. And I think it's really given me a push to be as proactive as possible, and sort of just the realization of my own like mortality and like that I might not have as much time as the average person has been a very big push to like, I really want to like, I have all these things I want to do before my time's up, you know? Yeah. And it's also like, you know, I wish that it was easier to have that kind of push without having something like looming over you, you know?
Yeah. Okay. You say getting sick was a humbling experience. Can you explain why you feel this way?
Definitely. I think when you're a healthy person, it's really easy to take life for granted, you know? It's very easy to just, like, not feel thankful for waking up and being able to walk into your kitchen, you know? And I think getting sick not only made me more like in tune to myself and things that I need to grow on and like work on as a person, it also made me more conscious of like other people's difficulties and like other people's how you know, things like accessibility and things like empathy that I didn't have to think about before because I was healthy. I'm definitely a much more like empathetic and thoughtful person now.
Okay. You say that being diagnosed with relapsing polychondritis was one of the best things and one of the worst things that has ever happened to you. What do you mean by that?
So, obviously one of the worst things because it's super painful and it totally like flipped my life around, you know? But it's also like I've found a lot of opportunities in it. I found a lot of humor in it. I found a lot of ways to feel more positive and more thankful in life. And it's sort of just like, I feel thankful for like having an experience. You know what I mean? Everybody gets to have like their specific set of experiences in life. And I think being disabled or chronically ill is something that really turns you into a stronger person and a smarter person. So, yeah, in those ways I feel thankful that I've gotten to grow, you know?
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. Tell me about your experience with bipolar disorder.
So, yes, I also have bipolar disorder. I have bipolar type 2. And it's definitely hard. I was diagnosed in my early 20s. And I'm lucky in that medication works really well for me. So I do feel a lot like healthier that way now. But I definitely did have some trying times in my late teens, early 20s of really big, like long hypomanic episodes and long, super, super depressive episodes.
Really? Okay. My goodness. Wow. Do you see any benefits to being bipolar?
I absolutely do. And I genuinely think a lot of bipolar people would agree. Obviously, safety comes first, and you have to be, like, healthy and in a place where you can take care of yourself. But there is this, like, gift that is, like, mania and hypomania, where it's such a huge creative burst, and you have all this energy, and you just feel confident. And I think it's really great. I tend to create a lot of art when I'm feeling hypomanic, because you don't have all of that, you know, you just don't have all of that normal stuff, like, holding you back, saying, like, I'm not good enough or whatever. When you're hypomanic, you're like, I'm amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like,
Okay.
feel great and inspired by everything. So I think it's good to kind of create in that headspace, and then when I'm feeling more balanced, go back and sort of like hone it in and make it more accessible for people who are not also on cloud nine.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What kind of art do you make during your bipolar episodes?
So I definitely write a lot of comedy. That's like my go-to. I love writing comedy. But I also do things like I paint. I like to paint on clothes a lot.
Really?
Yeah, I have a lot of like jean jackets that I've painted on and things like that. I make shoes. Like I've made gifts for friends, painted on friends' clothes. With their permission, of course.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, things like that. Mostly those two.
Okay. What would you say to a person who suddenly develops a disabling disease to help them see that they can live their best life?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's one of like the most difficult things you can ever go through, and I wish at the time I had known someone or heard someone say like that life does feel normal again eventually. You will feel happy again. You will be able to do the things that you want to do, because it feels so overwhelming when it first happens. It feels like it's over, It feels like it's done. I'm never going to be myself again. But you do find ways to get back there, and sometimes, in some ways you find even better ways to live,
Really?
Yeah, totally.
Can you give me some examples?
I think I used to push myself really hard and never let myself rest. And it wore me down, I had like more depressive episodes than I needed to, because I was constantly trying to like push through it, never taking time off for myself, or even just slowing down and like spending time with friends, like hanging out. That was hard for me because I felt like I've got to be working all the time,
Yeah.
And now, since being sick, I've realized how important it is to allow yourself to have a day where you're just relaxing and you're just building relationships with people, and that it's okay to have a slow period,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been, like, really enriching in life. Like, my relationships with my friends have gotten so much better since I got sick.
Really? Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
So you've got a great balance going there now.
Totally.
Yeah, that's excellent. So you were a professional dancer for a while there.
Yes.
What did you do?
I did a lot of musical theater. I did some gig work and things like that. And I also danced for a professional basketball team.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. You really get around.
Yeah.
So what kind of musical theater did you do?
Like everything. I did any show I could get my hands on. I still do.
Really?
Yeah, I still do musical theater now too. I just finished a production of You're in Town, so.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Do you sing?
I do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sing and dance.
I do.
Wow.
He does it all.
Okay. Have you ever considered paradancing?
I think paradancing is super, super interesting. I don't know a lot about it, but I've seen, YouTube videos or people on, competition shows, and I think it's so cool. It's definitely something that I would like to get into. I'm sure there's a community for it in Chicago.
There is.
We have everything, right?
Yeah.
There's so much art here. Definitely that's something that I'd like to know more of, and maybe find a workshop or something to take. That'd be very cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we feature some of that on Fun for the Disabled.
Hey.
So you can check out the events calendar and you can find out when they're going to be there.
Awesome.
Okay. How has comedy helped you cope on a daily basis to keep pushing forward?
So comedy has been my go-to coping mechanism my whole life. I don't remember a time when I didn't make a joke about whatever was, ailing me, right?
Okay.
But I definitely think it's such an important skill for people who are chronically ill or dealing with a disability. Not only for yourself, to remind yourself that it doesn't have to be so serious, but for other people too. Because I think there's this immediate, once people find out or realize or see that you're sick, it can be such a, people don't know how to cope with it, you know? They don't know, you know, am I supposed to be, like, super empathetic? Do I have to, like, tiptoe around this person now? And, of course, no one wants that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, comedy is a great way to sort of, like, break those barriers down. And I found, like, that helps with new friends. If I can make jokes about my condition, then they feel much more comfortable and they don't feel like they have to be worried all the time, you know?
Excellent. Excellent. What are your goals for the future?
To become the most famous comedian in the world.
Okay.
Step one.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Maybe. No, I would love to write for late night TV. Or NBC. I would love to, like, write a TV series. That would be amazing.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
What kind of TV series?
Well, definitely a comedy.
Okay.
I think I'd really like to do something that intersects comedy and mental health, because we are in a place, I think, where, like, audiences can handle mental health now.
Yeah.
But we still have to, like, we need to really push it so that it becomes it becomes just as normal as being like, I have the flu, to say I have depression, you know?
Okay.
So I think that would be, like, it would be really cool.
Yeah. Okay. What personal goals do you have?
Wow. I think I just would really like to continue building personal relationships. It feels weird to say because I'm like 25, but it's a newer thing for me. Like I've had friends, but I haven't had like the level of intimate friendships that I do now, and it's so much nicer than I would have imagined. So I'd really like to just continue building relationships like that, and trying to make the people around me have a good time as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do people relate to you as a comedian with a fatal autoimmune disease that you address in your act?
I think, the autoimmune disease itself is super rare, and it's interesting but not relatable per se. But the idea of, like, having to face your mortality and face the fact that we are all going to die is the most relatable thing in the world. And it's, it's a thing, like, humans worry about all the time. And I think my act very much, like, makes fun of the idea of death, It just kind of, it's just the most normal thing ever. And, it's become less scary to me because I've had to think about it. And I think that's something that's a really cool way to connect with the audience. They'll come up to me after and be like, I never thought about it, like, that way. It doesn't sound so bad, things like that.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm really going to, like, think about it now. And I think that's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything in your comedy that people are drawn to?
I definitely think people like hearing about the autoimmune disease. Especially because it's such a, like, I was normal and healthy my whole life, and then all of a sudden had this, like, thing that people don't deal with. So I think it is, like, an interesting story. I also think I have just a very, like, goofy and, like, nothing's that serious kind of, like, vibe on stage, and I think that's fun. I hope people like it.
Okay. How does it affect you having a combination of bipolar and polychondritis?
Yeah, it's definitely been a wild ride. Because there's this thing of, like, so when you have a lot of autoimmune diseases, you have chronic fatigue, which I do experience a lot. Like, it doesn't really matter how much I sleep or rest, I'm always tired. And then bipolar can do the exact opposite, where you have, like, a heightened awakeness, alertness. So it can be super weird when, like, my body is exhausted, but my mind is, like, running, Yeah. Yeah, it can be crazy. And then on the flip side, when I am in, like, a more depressive state, it can be really hard to do the things I need to take care of the relapsing polychondritis,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Do you have a mantra that you say to yourself when you wake up or to get yourself going?
I don't know necessarily that I'd say I have a mantra, but I do just try to wake up and have the best day that I can, you know? I think that's really important to just remind yourself that you have the opportunity to, you know, for the most part, control your day, control your mood, and just, you know, work hard and try to enjoy yourself. Even if it's just for, you know, a part of the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
To be the best day
Yeah,
you
just
can.
have a good day.
Okay. Excellent. Well, what kind of performances are upcoming for you?
So I'll be doing improvised Jane Bond. That's James Bond, but it's all women.
Really?
Yeah. We'll be doing that
Okay.
in March and April, which will be super, super cool. And, you know, I'll be doing some stand-up gigs around the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to find out where Morgan will be performing, check out our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages and our handle is fun4 the disabled. Thanks, Morgan, for spending the day with us today. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. You made me very happy to know you.
Yay, me
Please
too.
come back.
I'd love to.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is Vanessa Harris signing off with funforthedisabled.com. Bye-bye.